The top 5 list we have today is top 5 under the radar Clemson players for 2019. Okay. Here's where things get a little iffy. All right. I begged your humble show host, Morgan Thomas, to give me a list of people we could not pick. Okay. Because there is some fierce debate as to what can be considered under the radar. All right. So if you hear a name and you sit there and think, they're not under the radar, give us a little slack. Okay. Because it is up for debate for sure. Are we going to go 5 up or are we going to go 1 down?
Whatever you would like, but I want everybody to know that I did give you a stipulation that they couldn't have scored a touchdown in the national championship game. And I also said it'd probably be good to stay away from players who are on the poster of this year's Clemson schedule poster that they got out. By the way, this year it's purple.
Those things would have been good if I knew who was on the poster.
You don't have a poster, Al?
I don't have a poster. You haven't given me one yet.
Wow. Okay, well, somebody's watching this show and has an extra poster. Give us a message. Hit us in the DM and give us a message, and we'll get Alan. Let's get Alan that poster. It's purple this year, though. It's kind of interesting. I've had a white one. I've had an orange one. This one's purple. It's kind of cool. But I've kept all the ones from the national championship teams. But let's just start from the top, my friend. Let's start from the top.
Start from the top. Number 1, I have Jackson Carman. A lot of people are probably saying that's not really under the radar. I haven't heard a lot from Jackson Carman in the offseason. Obviously, he didn't get to play a lot last year. We've been spoiled over the last 4 years and had Mitch Hyatt absolutely anchoring down that left side of the line. I mean, even as a true freshman, this kid didn't let anybody get to the quarterback, okay? He allowed like 5 sacks, I think, in all 4 years. That is an absolutely insane stat. What's even more insane is that he didn't get drafted. He eventually signed with the Dallas Cowboys, but he did not get drafted, and that is absolutely criminal. It's hard to look at a former 5-star player as an under-the-radar guy, but like I said, you just haven't had a ton of offseason talk about Jackson Carman. Most people, when they talk about him, want to talk about his weight. Can he keep his weight under control? Because this guy can move very well for his size and can really anchor down the left side of that line. So I believe if he can keep that under control, he's going to have a good season at left tackle. I think he can learn the playbook and get there as a sophomore. So hopefully we won't have too much drop off between him and Mitch Hyatt over the past few years. But I've got him anchored down at the left tackle position as my number 1 under the radar guy.
I like that. I really haven't. I didn't put any offensive linemen, so go ahead and beat me up for that now. I don't know much about evaluating offensive linemen unless they just knock people over. I feel like Jackson Carman, maybe I should have given a stipulation that 5-star players could not be used because, I just love having stipulations or changing the rules during the show. But I'll allow it. My number 1 is a guy that kind of showed out during the spring game for Trevor Lawrence and a guy who's going to have to take over for that Amari Rodgers position. And so I'm going with Cornell Powell. He showed a lot of experience during the spring game. He was able to get around a lot of people, get open in the zones, kind of stopped his routes while Trevor Lawrence was scrambling out to the outside, which is exactly what Dabo Swinney wanted from him, is to kind of not always rely on staying in the pocket, even though we know Trevor Lawrence can kill anyone and drop dimes anywhere in the pocket. But Dabo encouraged him and wanted him to work on rolling out of the pocket while still looking downfield. And you look at 3 or 4 of those plays, who did they hook up with? They hooked up with Cornell Powell every single time. And Cornell was doing a great job just sitting in that zone because, it's very hard to beat these guys man-to-man, especially you got DK and A.J. Terrell and Isaiah Simmons. A lot of guys out there, Tanner Muse, that are out there going to cover you hard, straight up man-to-man. And so when they have a chance to sit in the zone, you got to take advantage of it. And you also have to show that you have some chemistry with the quarterback. And so I like seeing that in the spring game, and he's not really a guy you hear much about. Didn't play very much last year, and so I'm going with Cornell Powell as my number 1.
That is an excellent number 1 pick. As a matter of fact, now that you say that, I'd really like to add him to my list somewhere. Okay, I'm a little embarrassed.
Honorable mention.
Cornell Powell, because like you said, he had a great spring game. Number 2, I put Justin Foster. Justin Foster is somebody you never hear anything about. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a good chance he starts at defensive end this year. Okay, opposite Xavier Thomas, of course. He was initially recruited as a linebacker. Things didn't really work out at linebacker. He put on a lot of weight. I think the initial plan was to put on a lot more weight and have him at defensive tackle. That didn't work out. Now he's back, slid out to end. And he showed some flashes over the past year and in the spring game as well. I've really liked what I've seen from him. Nobody talks about him. I think he has a chance to have a really solid year at defensive end.
Well, I like where you're going with the defensive end. I actually picked another defensive end that I think is probably going to beat him out. So here's my guy, is Justin Maskell. Yep. I think that Justin showed off. He was in that play where he almost bowled over Dabo Swinney and Kirk Herbstreit during the spring game, and they all joked about it, and he was super fast on that play. But I remember 4 or 5 months ago, Cleveland Farrell was being interviewed, and they said, who's going to take over for you? And he said, I went up after the national championship game, and I said to Justin, the baton is yours. Take it. It's yours for the taking. The starting position is now open, so go after it. Go make this season yours. And he was talking about Justin Maskell, and so that's why I picked him as my number 2. I like Foster as well. I think that the defensive line is not going to be near as bad as what some of the maybe ESPN or Alabama fans want it to be. I think that defensive line is going to reload, and just like the linebackers, going to be names you don't really know, but you're going to learn very fast.
Right, absolutely. I 100% agree with you. As a matter of fact, I really hate to do this. I don't want to give you a big head, okay? It's not something I enjoy doing, but I'm also embarrassed that I did not put Justin Maskell on my list. I think that is another excellent call, and you'll obviously be, rewarded with fan praise for that in the future. That's another excellent call. I think that's a good job there. I have number 3, Mike Jones. Okay, Mike Jones. I actually switched out him for another linebacker. This linebacking core hit with a lot of losses this year. Trey Lamar gone early in the NFL. Kendall Joseph gone to the NFL. Shaq Smith transfer portal. Okay, a lot of people thought he was going to be kind of one of the studs this year, the 5-star who's finally ready to break out. He is now gone. Somebody's got to step up. I love what I see from Mike Jones. Great athleticism. Did a good job in the spring game. He really gets after it. I think there's a spot for him at the linebacker level. I hope Venables can find a way to get him on the field because I like this guy's ability.
Yeah, I like that one too. So you're picking players that I'm not picking, which is awesome because we don't go over this beforehand. So if you're wondering, right, do we coordinate? No, we don't coordinate. I thought we were going to have an overlapping player by now, but we haven't. And I didn't pick Mike Jones. I did pick a linebacker, but and I noticed that he was on the poster, so I violated my own rule. But it's my show, so I'm gonna violate my own rule however I want to violate it, Alan. And you can't say anything about it. But I went with my number 3 of Chad Smith only because nobody knows him. He's a special teams player. He actually, you look back at his rival film from high school, he was their star linebacker. He was their star running back, which I love the linebacker-running back combination because everybody talks about, oh, he's not fast enough. Oh, he's not quick enough. If you're going to be the running back on your high school team, you better be doggone fast enough and quick enough. And he was, if you look at his film. And by the way, he was rated a 6.0 4-star. Yeah. You know how you get a 5-star? 6.1. Right. Okay? So he's not that far off from having a 5th star. He just didn't get it. And, we know that we don't need to rely on stars because Vic Beasley was like a 2-star athlete or 2-star tight end or something like that. It was crazy depending on where you look at. I know there's probably 6 people saying, oh, no, he was a 3. Oh, no, he was this and that. I know that there are many different recruiting places that we look at, but I will say I know that he was at least a 2-star somewhere. So don't at me about that. But I went with Chad Smith. I know he's on the poster, but I have a lot of confidence in him. He's been the backup middle linebacker for quite some time, and I think he's the guy that knocked that other Smith out of the starting lineup that actually made him go to Maryland and take his book bag somewhere else.
Yeah, picked up his ball and went home. I like number 4. I have Xavier Kelly. I really, really want this kid to get his shot. Okay, I want him to make the most of it. He began his career as a DE. Obviously, he was a very highly regarded defensive end. His career's never taken off, mostly, I believe, due to his moped accident he had his freshman year. If y'all don't remember that, he got hit while sitting at a stoplight. He was not wearing a helmet. So he's had to kind of be on the comeback trail ever since. I think Clemson saw an opportunity to put some weight on him and kind of have, one of those quick twitch bodies at defensive tackle, to provide a little more of a pass rush. I saw that recently he tweeted out that he was over 300 pounds, which is a very good sign. I'm hoping he's carrying that well. And he's adjusting well to the playbook and the role at DT. I'm really looking for Xavier Kelly to break out and provide some big-time depth on the defensive line.
It's funny that we did this because you're talking about positions, and I'm following you with position. I'm just not following you with the player.
Right.
Which is great because as we're kind of hopefully showing the fans that are watching, there's a lot of players that are ready to step up, that are ready to get their name on the posters, that are ready to be said in the stadium and be talked about on ESPN. You just don't know them yet. And that's why I say just have faith in that defense. We know that we don't know a lot of them, but they are good players. They've just been waiting. And the ones that wait the longest are the ones that are the hungriest to get out there and dominate. I didn't say Xavier Kelly. I didn't remember that he had. I misremembered that he got in that moped accident.
Yeah.
I like KJ Henry as well, but I didn't pick either one of them. I went with the guy that was voted as next year's or the most up and coming defensive player in 2019 and at the end of the year's award ceremony. I went with Jordan Williams. All right, he's a big dude, already big, got hurt and had some problems during the spring, so you didn't hear about him much in the spring. Didn't hear about Miles Pickney either. But I think Jordan Williams is a guy, obviously, if the other players had voted for him to be that up-and-coming defensive player in 2019, I got to put him on this list somewhere. He's not on the poster. He wasn't seen very much in the national championship game. He wasn't seen at all in the spring game or in spring practice. But let me tell you something. Come August, it's game time, baby, for Jordan Williams. And like I said, he's going to be a guy I think you're going to be hearing a lot in the backfield, and a lot of other teams are not going to like his name.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. It's funny you mentioned Jordan Williams because he was going to be on my list. And this is, I think, where our lists are coming in different, are how we're interpreting under the radar. Because
Right.
You're right, you really haven't heard a lot about Jordan Williams. But when all the people left on the defensive line, especially at defensive tackle, everybody knew Niles Pickney, Jordan Williams were going to be your de facto starters.
He was the guy.
So I kind of steered clear of him as far as under the radar. But you're right. You haven't heard a lot about him because he's been injured. And we just got to hope he comes back ASAP and comes back healthy and is able to get back in game shape, because I think that's a great pick. Number 5, I know you didn't match this one either because you said you didn't pick any offensive linemen. And I hesitated to pick this one as an under the radar as well, but I have Shawn Pollard, senior offensive lineman, been moved around his whole career. You know, he came in at right tackle. He was thrown into the fire at the middle end of the season. You know, we went on our national championship run with Deshaun Watson. A lot of concern, you know, going up against Alabama's defensive ends, and he handled his job really well in that game. Did a great job. So expectations kind of skyrocketed. And then for whatever reason, the very next year, he didn't play very well at right tackle. In fact, he got kind of booted down to the bench, I believe, for quite a while there. You know, he looks to play guard or center most likely this year. I think they're trying to groom him as a center. Can he snaps with the velocity that he needs to be an effective center? I don't know. We'll see. But I think it's best case for Clemson if he's able to take control of that role at center. So obviously you want to keep Jackson Carman at left tackle. You want to keep Tremaine Ankrum at right tackle. And then, you know, John Simpson, Gage Cervenka, and then Shawn Pollard at center. So I'm really hoping he takes care of that role. If he doesn't, obviously you'll see somebody slide in like Cervenka, and you maybe have Shawn Pollard move around to a guard position or something like that. But I'm really hoping it's center.
Yeah, I read somewhere where that Ankrum and could take over the left tackle position
yes, correct.
If Carman doesn't really work out or something happens, because some people have said that they're worried a little bit about his footwork and
Right.
being able to get off the ball quick. I don't know. I think there's going to be a battle there with the center position. I think Cervenka is going to go has been going after it hard too. But I like that. Like I said, I'm glad that you did offensive lineman, because I definitely didn't give the Beard Gang any love. I don't know if they're the Beard Gang anymore, but I like that Beard Gang thing.
Oh, yeah.
So for number 5 for me, I now that I'm looking at it, I did way too many defensive players. So forgive me in advance. But number 5, I did Jake Venables. Hey, if you're gonna be Daddy's boy, you better dominate. Now let me tell you something. I told Mark Childress this too. If you're gonna be Daddy's boy, and you're big enough and you're strong enough to be a linebacker, and you've grown up with Brent Venables in your house as your dad for 19 years, it's game on when you get on the field, because you ought to know every single play in the playbook. You ought to know every single audible. I mean, it's be like a nursery rhyme. This playbook, this Clemson playbook, should be like a nursery rhyme to you. You should know it. Back of the hand type stuff.
Right.
So that's why I'm saying Jake Venables. I think he was another reason maybe why that other Smith player went and took his book bag to Maryland, because This is a guy who it's easy to say, oh, daddy's boy, getting special treatment. But, man, he rocked Tavian Feaster in the spring game. And he had a couple plays. He missed a coverage. T. Higgins scored a touchdown, but, hey, it's T. Higgins. Come on. T. Higgins, give him a break there. But I will say that he's got the height. He's got the weight. He has to me, he has to know the playbook. If he doesn't, then, I mean, what are you doing? But so that's why I picked number 5, because I think if anybody is to show up and show out, it's somebody who grew up in with Brent Venables in his house.